We are discussing today about the youth as God's champions in the business arena. You know, the youth is a very wide term because anybody below 40 is regarded as a youth. And these are the active people. They are the ones that move. They are the movers and shakers. They may not necessarily be the richest people. They may not necessarily be the ones that are parents and guiding, and they may not even be top in politics. But things happen when the youth start getting involved. I remember reading that the modern missionary era began when the students in Cambridge and Oxford started getting involved. People like Stiti start getting involved in an interest in evangelizing the whole world. Then we got the student movement in America. And with that change, these are young people daring. They went to every corner of the world, in Africa, in China, in Japan, and evangelization happened. The youth are a force. We keep calling them the leaders of tomorrow, but it's a wrong assumption because they are leaders of today. They make things happen today. And I could talk about it in politics. They're the ones used. They are the people who run. They are paid by the politicians and can do havoc. So they can be a force for good or a force for evil. Today we especially want to call on their influence in the business world. That's why we are calling them God's champion for the business world. If you want the Kenyan business, the African business to become better, then we need to invest in the youth, teaching them what it means to be a good businessman. And when they are good business people, they will influence the rest. You see, the older people are on their way out of the scene. The young people are entering. If you really can catch the young people to believe in good business ethical practices, then you have hope for our nations in Africa and wherever you young people are. So that's why we are calling them God's champions, because God is interested in good ethical business. But that will not happen unless we are able to harness the giftings of young people to change the business arena. And you know, I know in the book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 36, there is that famous verse about a young man called David. David is so young, but when he is called, that even when the father is talking about possible kings, he forgets him. He's a young man. But as a young man, David brought change in Israel, in the military, in the farming community, in the business area. He brought a lot of difference. And I would like our young people to copy David. He became a leader maybe at the age of mid-teens, but he actually finally became a king at the age of 30. He had a lot of young years of having to deal with the king, and he was involved in military and causing military victories. At the same time when he was young, that he was able to conquer Goliath. So is it any wonder then that when you read the book of Acts, talking about David, Acts chapter 13, verse 36, we read, and when David had served God's purpose in his own generation, he fell asleep. He was buried and with his ancestors, and his body decayed. In other words, the summary of David's life is, number one, he fulfilled God's purpose. Not his purpose, not the parents' purpose. After all, it's not the parents who made him who he is. It's God himself. And he knew he was in leadership. He was in youth in order to do what God appointed him to do. And you know, we have to be sure that God is interested in a good business environment. Without business, the nation will be in trouble. You may be a farmer, but you need business to get your products to the customers. It's business that's able to stand between the farmer and the customer. You need business, even for the scientists who are coming up with the new and wonderful things. We need business people who can get the new product, the new inventions into the hands of the people who need it. We need business. So business is critical to the survival of any nation. But the trouble is, business is full of challenges. So you need to understand that the purpose of God, that business would become profitable, would become productive, would become ethical. That's God's purpose. David understood he was not in this in order to carry his own purpose or the parents' purpose, is to carry God's purpose. And when David had served God's purpose, number two, we learned that he was clear that God would not ask him for what happened before he came to the picture. You may talk about the corrupt world, but God will not hold you accountable for how it was corrupt before you came in, or even after you die. He says David served God's purpose only in his own generation. And your generation is as young as you or as old as you. That's why you need to start at a very early age, influencing the young people who are like you to buy new values, biblical values, and take them to the business world. As they initiate business or they get employed in business, whichever, it will be important that you tell them, it's your generation. And David understood it was generation. Number three, David did not retire. He used the whole of his life to fulfill God's purpose, and he actually went on until he died. Don't start believing these stories about getting rich by 40. Then after that, you do what? You can be rich at any age, that's welcome. But your job is to ensure you influence the business world for the whole of your life until you die. And so you need to start seeing yourself as a vehicle that will bring values, godly values, all the days of your life. You know, the African business scene has a lot of challenges. And those are the challenges that God would like you as a young person to deal with. You know, in the African scene, we are having a strong competition from the East, from China, from Japan, from India. We try to come up with something. There is another one a cheaper one that is from those countries. And I ask, which young man will help us to be able to produce items at a cost that is good enough to compete with the other one? The other one is imported and yet is being sold at a lower level. We need quality goods from our young people, but also well priced, because that's one of the big challenge, that we are having our businesses overrun by importation, especially from the East. Second problem, we are having security threats. You fear of farmers who cannot sleep at night because some people are coming in, harvesting their products, totally destroying their livelihood. We are having security issues that are making it difficult for businesses to thrive, for businesses to do what they were created to do. Who will help us with these security issues? Isn't it the young men of a village, the young men of a town, who will gather together and if their youth and stamina find out how to tame the robberies, to tame the challenges that are there? That's when we talk about transforming the business, becoming God's champion in the business arena. It is to create the security that will allow people to take reasonable risks and become big businesses to fight, like we said earlier, the importation of goods that we could actually produce. The other one is infrastructure limitations. In other words, there are things you want to do, but there are infrastructure limitations. Young people need to come up with all kinds of infrastructure, including electronic infrastructure, internet infrastructure. They need to influence what is happening, because that's a real challenge for African business. The other one, it's a high cost of doing business. High cost of doing business means, and I talked about that earlier, we end up with the products that are very expensive because of high cost of doing business. Can't you find a way of producing the same item that your parents are producing, but in such a way that it will be cheaper. Of course, there are some items you cannot deal with, but you can do advocacy to get our taxes to be reasonable, and to have systems of using money, like access to finances, creating banks that are willing to help people, business at reasonable rates. All those are going to help us produce goods at a reasonable price. The other problem is bureaucracy, running things, because of these security issues and lack of trust. You have one Nyapara, you have one supervisor supervising another one, and being checked by a third one. So you end up with a lot of bureaucracy, slowing down production of any item, and therefore businesses becoming more expensive because they are not producing enough goods. So you don't enjoy economies of scale. And that's an issue that young people need to come up with and deal with. But the worst of them is counterfeiting. Some people that want to take what you have invented and come up with and produce something cheap like it. My friend, it needs to be well understood that there's no way you'll be able to produce innovative goods when you do not trust that those goods are yours and you can enjoy your sweat. Counterfeiting, part of it is being done by young people. Counterfeiting, part of it is being done by foreigners. But our young people are young enough and creative enough to try to close boundaries of these people who are counterfeiting. But the worst of the problems in Africa business is corruption, high levels of corruption. A country like Kenya is listed as number 145 out of 176 nations of the world as on the corruption index. What does that mean? That we are so corrupt, we are in the tail end of integrity. Surely, there's no way you can be that level and everybody trust you. Everybody is trying to do business, but they have to try to increase their prices because they think their people are going to steal. It's a terrible thing. We also ranked number 92 out of 190 countries for ease of doing business. And that's one of the things that the young people have to fight and have advocacy for, so the government and everybody involved can assist us to do business in an easier way, therefore ending up with cheaper products and yet quality goods. There are many problems, but the biggest of them is actually corruption, lack of ethics in our nation. That's not the way it has always been. It is younger people that have of our generation who actually participated in misguiding us to the wrong direction. Now, how can you, as a young person, joining business? And you can join business in two ways. You could become an entrepreneur. In other words, think up a problem that people are dealing with, lack of something, then find a solution, and that will become your entrepreneurial business. You come up with a business to meet a need that nobody is meeting, or come up with a business to meet a need at a cheaper rate than is available in the market, or come up with a business that's going to meet the need of customers in a better way, in a more efficient way than is currently happening. That's one of the things we're encouraging young people to do. Be entrepreneurs, be creative, and come up with things. But it's also possible, before you become your own entrepreneur, why don't you learn from the other people's mistakes and get employed in business, and in that business, assist that business owned by other people to do things in a different way. You are practicing with them, convince your boss that the things can be done in a different way. And as they see them succeed, they'll be one of the people who support you when you run your own business. So being employed in business can also help you to move. Because all of a sudden, maybe they are having a lot of workers because of fear of theft. But you can come and create an atmosphere where theft is no longer the normal thing. That will reduce the costs of doing business. How can you do those? How can you influence our business world, the business arena, to be more efficient, more effective, but especially ethical, having biblical values in business. Because Christianity is not just for the church. Christianity, in church, we go to be fed with God's word. We are supposed to practice it in the working world. And that's what we are saying young people should do. Now, how can you actually influence what happens in business? My first suggestion is work within your calling. Do not try to do just what brings money. Work where you feel, I am doing this for God's calling. If you operate within your calling, it will help you to be committed and you'll see God in it. There's a story I had and I keep repeating about a tourist who went to see a construction site in Europe, and they were building a cathedral. And he went to one corner of the cathedral. This cathedral is a big thing. One corner, and asked somebody who was laying bricks, "What are you doing?" Obviously, it could be seen. And the guy just rose up and looked at him and said, "But I'm laying bricks." Now, the tourist wanted to hear whether the guy is excited. You can't be excited if your job is just to do a duty, put one brick on top of another. And you could see from him he's not happy. He is there to earn daily bread. Young people will not bring a difference if they don't operate where they can do more than just do a duty. Why are you doing? Oh, just doing a duty to earn money. Now, the tourist moved away from that corner to another corner, and he found somebody else who said they were doing exactly the same thing. Asked them, "What are you doing?" The guy said, "I am building a cathedral." He was doing exactly what the first one was doing, but this guy was excited about what he was doing. Cathedrals in those years was only one cathedral per country, all of them reporting to Rome, where the Pope was. So at that point, this guy is not thinking of putting one brick on top of another. He's thinking of the complete building and getting excited that when the cathedral is ready, he will be telling his grandchildren, "I was involved in building the cathedral." He was excited. That kind of a guy would be waking up early in the morning, fulfill a calling of creating a cathedral for the country, for his country. Young people, if you truly want to bring a difference, look for where you are not just earning money. You are bringing change, and you are doing it in a way that excites you. You are passionate about what you are doing. So select out of the business arena an area where you feel you are meeting a need and God has got you to do it. Now, he went to a third person who was also laying bricks. And he asked him again, "What are you doing?" This one did not say, "I'm laying bricks." He also did not say, "I am building a cathedral." Imagine, he rose up, stopped what he was doing, looked at the tourist and said, "I'm depopulating hell and populating heaven." Wow. This is a bricklayer, but he saw himself as an evangelist. Why? He could see when the cathedral is complete, the Pope is going to put a bishop there. The bishop will preach. Drunkards will learn not to be drunkards. Adulterers will stop doing it. People that are going to hell will be helped to go to heaven. And it will be because I was involved in building the cathedral. He did not see his job as just laying bricks. He never saw it as just completing a cathedral. He went beyond building a cathedral to why the cathedral was being built. Young people, if you truly want to bring change in the business world, work where you sense, "This is my calling." You sense, "I'm not doing it just for money." You sense, "I'm not just doing it for my boss and the shareholders. I'm doing this because God has appointed me to bring a solution to his people." Although you are employed, you will feel what you are doing is more than earning profits. What you are doing is more than serving the boss. You are serving God. And you can always be able to tell that what I'm doing, followed to its conclusion, will bring a change for people. And that kind of change will glorify God. So I'm actually serving God. You know, some people think the only people who serve the Lord are pastors. I'm here to tell you, and I've written a book on it, that Christian professionals are involved in serving God. And that is something that you need to understand. But then you must only do the kind of work that adds value on human beings and bring glory to God. And that will be something that will be very, very important for us to actually mention. So Are you involved in your calling? Are you involved in a calling? If you operate there, because you are not doing it just to please men, you will do things that will bring a change within your industry, within your sector. You know, for that to happen, you need a clear vision. You need a dream of a better business area, business arena. You need a dream for a better country. You need a vision. And in the dream, you must see what you do, how it will be by the time you actually are an old man. It's a dream broad enough to include making an impact for others. Are you committed enough? Are you committed enough to that dream? So what I'm trying to get to see is that you need to have a vision that if I do my work the way I'm doing, Kenya will be different. Africa will be different. This sector will be different. And do not see it where it is now. I normally tell people to imagine themselves at the age of 80. You're only 20-something today. See yourself at the age of 80. What would have changed? What do you hear people saying? Oh, we are so grateful that this old man was involved in this business area. This is the difference he brought to the business sector. List it. Although it will not happen in your 20s, it may not even happen in your 30s, it may happen in your 50s. But you have long enough, if the Lord tarries, if Jesus does not come quickly, you have long enough to bring the change. So don't just think of the change you bring within a year. See the vision of the long term. Because sometimes what discourages us is when we don't see the change. And because our change was so short term, we give up too early. If we want to bring transformation in the business arena, we must see things with their long-term view. I think what I'm actually saying, which is my third point, is that you need to have a proactive mind. What is to be proactive? Proactive is a person who thinks of the end at the beginning. And there's Steve Covey who talks about that, always do what you do with the end in mind. That's about proactive, thinking about the future. So before you do anything, before you enter into a new business, before you begin a new department, you first of all tell yourself, if I do it like this, these are the likely benefits. But in order to go there, these are likely to be the barriers. These are the risks. Think about all of them. Then you weigh the risks, you weigh the costs, you see the benefits, and you now make a commitment. Now, even if the risks finally happen, you knew they would happen. So you'll not be crushed because you had thought about it and you have thought about taking the risk. It was a calculated risk. Those are the people we call proactive. You will not be able to bring change in the business arena when you just do what others are doing because you found them being done, world without end. No, you must not do something you have not thought about into the future. You must be somebody proactive. Strive to put in place a system to prevent undesirable eventualities happening. Proactive people always think about what can go well. They also think about what can go bad. And so they are able to prepare for both. And because they have thought about what can go bad, they create systems to stop it from going bad. Or they also create systems that in case it goes bad, how can you recover quickly? They have thought about it all in advance. And that way they can fail and rise up again until they are able to achieve their vision. You know, we have three types of people anywhere. We have this type of person who is unchanging, doesn't learn from experience. They repeat the same things that people are doing. Now, if you are that type, you are likely to help your parents' generation because you do things just like them. You don't learn anything from the past. And there are people like that. That's why we keep doing things the same way things were done. You woke up getting water from the river and your grandmother was doing it. Now you're also doing it. Isn't there any other way of getting water to the house? Now that's really unchanging people. People who don't learn from experience. The second category of people are what we call reactive people. These are much better. To be a reactive person is to be much better than the unchanging type. Because if something happens, you learn from it. If you succeed in something, you learn from it. If you fail in something, you draw lessons so that you don't fail again. That's reactive. It is good because that means you cannot repeat a mistake. But it's bad because that means you must fail fast before you learn something. And that kind of teaching, reactive people pay a heavy price for the lessons they learn. Let me give you a better system. It is the proactive people. The proactive people want to have a detailed analysis of a project before the project comes. And that's what Luke chapter 14 is saying. Jesus was saying, why start a tower before you have done all the proactive necessities? Why go to war before you have a proper done? Jesus in Luke chapter 14 is teaching us we must not get to a project until we have thought through our ability to finish it and the impact it will have. That's what we mean by becoming proactive. And I'm encouraging you, if you really want to bring change in the business world, you must not enter into something without thinking about it in advance. Number 4, I'm recommending that you become somebody disciplined. The word disciplined has the same root as disciple. Who is a disciplined person? A disciplined person is a person who continues to do something they are not enjoying doing once they know it will bring something good. If you are, we can't call you disciplined when you are doing something you enjoy doing. We call you disciplined when you continue doing something because of its value and because of proactively you thought about what good it can bring, and you stick with it until you get good results. Say that person is disciplined. You are enjoying your sleep, but you have decided you'll be waking up at 6. The clock goes at 6, and you don't feel like waking up. You are just enjoying your sleep. In fact, you slept late, and you throw away the blanket. You go into it. You are the kind of a person who has made their commitment to be doing your quiet time at 5 o'clock every morning. You wake up, and you lock up yourself to pray and meet God. That we call you disciplined. That's the kind of things I've mentioned are called spiritual discipline. But our business world is suffering because of lack of discipline. There are 4 things that can show you somebody is not disciplined. Number 1, they start doing something, then drop it. You ask them why they drop it, and they don't have a good reason. That's an example of somebody not disciplined. Number 2, it is somebody who does things in a short way. The product that comes out is short day. It's not good enough because he was not concentrating enough and sticking with it to produce durable and good goods. Number 3, you will call you not lacking discipline when you do not keep your promises. You are too quick to promise something and then you don't do it. Oh, I'll deliver that item by 3 o'clock. Then tomorrow morning, 3 o'clock, after even an extra day, you are still saying, give me another day. 3 days later is when you have given. My friend, you should not have made a promise without proper analysis. And having made their promise, you keep it. Discipline means you don't commit before you are sure of something. And if you don't keep your promise, you go in advance. When you realize, I'll not keep my time, you go in advance and say, can we agree a new time? It's not the other people ringing you to remind you. Discipline means you keep your word. You stick with what you have promised. Therefore, you don't make promises without proper analysis. That's what we're talking about when you are actually disciplined. When you talk about discipline, we are showing, and that you are showing discipline. The first thing we are talking about is self-control, ability to control yourself. How many appetites do we have? And sometimes our appetites are driving us. We end up eating more than we should. We end up eating more, drinking more, doing things. Discipline is self-control in whatever action you're doing. There are many important qualities that can contribute to a person's achievement and happiness and joy, but the most important is discipline. There's only one person who can sustain and long-term get what they have seen in their dream. It's a self-disciplined person. Do you want to bring change in the business world? Teach that you only keep your word, you do things the way you have set out to do, and when a change comes, you review it. You don't just change because others are changing. You review it and make a new commitment. Self-disciplined is a learned behavior. My friend, do not assume because you grew up in a family that was not disciplined you cannot be disciplined because you learn it. It's a behavior you learn. According to a 2013 study by somebody called Wilhelm Hoffman, people with high self-control are happier than those without. You keep failing to keep your word, you keep failing to finish the product on time, your business will be in shambles. But when you finish things the way you wanted, you're a happier man. People who are disciplined may look like they are suffering in their discipline, but they have joyful. Each night they sleep happy that they did out what they set out to do. The self-disciplined did not allow their choices to be dictated by the impulses or feelings and end up doing something less important and leaving out something important. Instead, they made informed, rational decisions on a daily basis without feeling overly stressed or upset. If you want a joyful life that helps you to influence the business arena, it will be important that you have self-discipline. It will require practice and repetition, however. Don't give up. You try the first time, you don't succeed. Remember to have a learned behavior. You have to repeat it over time and until it becomes part of your day-to-day. But number two, it's not just repetition. The second thing you must learn is repetition. You know, you must learn to repeat, but learn to remove the temptation. What is tempting you? Is it sleeping late? Start sleeping early enough. Self-control is often easier when abiding by the old saying, out of sight, out of mind. Removing all the temptations not to keep to what you have promised. Removing distractions from your environment is a crucial first step to getting the new behavior or the new discipline. So, repetition is important, but number two, removing temptation. Move away. Are you keeping wrong company? Come out of that company. Are you staying near a bar and so you end up drinking? Move to a place where there is no bar. Do you have issues that are influencing you? Come out of them. But then number two is eat regularly and healthily. Studies have shown that low blood sugar often weakens your resolve. So it means that you have to look after your eating habit so that you always have energy. Because they are saying when you have low sugar, you might lose your ability to keep to your promise. And you end up feeling sorry that you changed. Next, if you want to be a disciplined person, don't wait for it to feel right. You know very well feelings are not a good guide. Improve your self-discipline means changing up from your normal routine, which can be uncomfortable and awkward because you are moving from a comfort zone to another thing. So feeling right does not drive people that are disciplined. You know, set your breaks. In other words, although we are talking about being disciplined, understand your body clock. So create breaks. If you are doing something for 2 hours, by the second hour, find a break. If you don't put a break, you end up breaking your own resolve. We are looking at things that can help you to keep to your discipline. And it will be important. Self-discipline does not mean your new regimen needs to be entirely cold turkey, hardcore, drill sergeant like execution. No. You need to understand your body and create breaks, you know, so that you have wiggling space. If you make a commitment, like you make a commitment to deliver something at 4 o'clock, work out another commitment to finish it by 3 o'clock. That gives you one whole hour where even if you didn't do it on time, you'll still be able to make it. When you hear people are disciplined, they create room for error within their things. You don't make a promise without creating room for error. But the other thing that will help you to keep to the new discipline is learn to forgive yourself and move forwards. When you have been disciplined, you made a promise to yourself, then you fail. Please admit you have failed, but learn to forgive yourself and start again. That will be very, very important. Next, if you really want to be somebody who is living within, who is going to make a difference, learn to live within your means. There's no way you influence people when you are begging from them. You want to influence your employer, but you're always borrowing money. No. the one who pays the piper always calls a tune. People that are beneficiaries do not influence benefactors. And that will only happen when you learn to live within your means. Don't, even if you're earning little money, live within that money. It will give you the freedom to demand change. It will give you the freedom to negotiate with others. When you become somebody who is relying on others, you can't influence them. Benefactors, I repeat, always influence beneficiaries. So you need to come, and you don't have to be rich. Whatever the income you have, you live in it. And when you learn to live within it, you enter into business, you learn how. So if you borrow money, you pay it on time. Don't go begging. You can't influence people if you are begging from them. But you know, the other thing that you learn very clearly is not to be a clever fool. Balance, having work-life balance. Having work-life balance. Because if you don't get your family support, you will not do a good job out there. So you need to create time to be with your family, time to be with your work, time to be in church, time to be, and you end up with a good work-life balance. And it's a full subject we should live on. Because people with good life balance are able to get from their church connection, from their family connection, the kind of encouragement that allows them in the business world to do the right things in the right way. And that will be something that's very, very important. The next thing is be a kind of a businessman who has the triple, what I call the triple bottom line. Don't just run a business to make a profit. And I think I've already referred to it in several places. So when you're evaluating the year, you must ask yourself, how much profit have you made? That's also important, because how will you respond with the business if it's not paying for itself? Has your life contributed to the company's bottom line? Have the way you have worked helped to make profit? That's the first question, but not the only question. That's why I'm calling it the triple bottom line. The second one you ask is, the people I have worked with, have they become better people? Because you are committed not just to making money, but to creating workers and staff that are going to benefit from your being. Have you influenced them? Do they have new values? Have they gotten saved? Although you are in business, you are seeking to help them to learn how to believe in God. So you need to ask yourself every year, how have I operated this year? Have I helped my business contact, the people I've been working with? Have I helped them to be better people? The same thing with your customers. Are your customers enjoying things they were not enjoying before? That's an assessment. Okay, they paid you money, but are they doing better because you relate with them? That is the second bottom line. Your life should be contributing to the welfare of anybody you come into contact with. And then thirdly, the bottom line is asking the question, has my business life honored God? You see, even if your first bottom line is okay, the other two are not okay, you'll not be able to influence society. Because you could be manipulating people and exploiting them. You'll not be able to influence them. So the first thing, you must make money, but make money with. But finally, are you pleasing to God in your business life? If you become that kind of a person who is doing well with the triple bottom line, other people will watch you and want to copy you. And the business sector you are involved in will change. And soon enough, the business arena will also change. As we go towards finishing, I want to ask you a very clear question, which is, do you intend to bring worship in your workplace? Do you want to create ethical business contacts? Do you want to create ethical business customers? Why is it that there are many people who, in their way of life, they are okay? They are good husbands, they are good wives, they are good in the church, they are even elders. But in the business world, Nobody even knows they are saved. Nobody is ever changing because of them. Why don't they change? I've written a book called The Christian Professional that is trying to deal with helping people to have influence and change values in their place of work. I've written another one that's called The Work Ethics, helping people to influence their workplace with the business ethics. And I've written a third one called Discovering Your Life's Purpose, and trying to show people your purpose is not just preaching. It's to do your business life in a way that is important to people. I have given 7 reasons why people do not have good influence. Number 1, you live a double life. You live one way in church, another way in your business work. You need to keep the same standards you keep in church are the same ones you should keep in your business life. Number 2, that is can cause you not to have influence in your business world is the belief that only church work needs God's calling. I hope in this talk I've helped you to see that you should not be doing business if God has not called you to business. You need to say, I'm serving the Lord. The same way pastors say they are serving the Lord. You need to feel God has called you to bring these aspects in the business world. So that means when you are producing your goods, you are producing it because God has called you to produce goods. That way you will be doing your business in a new way. Thirdly, you will not influence the business world if you believe that only pastors are in full-time Christian work. Don't you know that Colossians 3:17 is saying, whatever you do it as unto the Lord. That means serve the Lord in whatever you do. But if you believe you can do your business things your own way without doing it the way God wants, then you're not influencing the business world. Number 4, I think it will be important not to believe there is a dichotomy of the spiritual and the private. You are one person all the time. You are spiritual, even wherever you go. Do not have a private time when you do things in a private way. Number 5, there are people who believe that they cannot be ministers of the gospel. In other words, I'm a business person. No. Even business people break ice in their discussions. Find a way of witnessing in addition to doing a good job. If you are serving your customers well, the customer will want to find out how come you are so different. You will tell them about Jesus, who has actually helped you. And number 6, please understand your mission is not fulfilled just by tithing. You must tithe out of your business. You must support the church out of your business, but you must also be a witness in your business life. And finally, you must understand your Christian acts will not be enough. It's not enough to act. You know, there are people say, they'll see through my actions. No, you must openly declare Jesus as your Lord and Savior in the business world. Don't use your employer's time to preach, but let people know who you are. That way, during break time, they can ask, how could I also be a Christian? And in the process, they'll first of all watch through your life, but they'll also hear from your words that there is another way of doing business that honors God and is also useful to people. So my prayer is that you will be the kind of a business person, the young person who is going to set new standards and in the process influence the industry, the sector, to learn new ways of working in an ethical way. You are working in an ethical way. You are also working with integrity, and you are also producing quality goods. I have written another book called The Integrity, the Litmus Test of Good Leadership. That book on integrity talks about producing goods that are quality goods, and that way influencing your sector. Thank you very much. God bless you.